Hello and welcome back to Crypto Saving Expert, where we talk about the latest cryptocurrency news and take a look at the markets so that we all know exactly what is happening. My name is Jess and we do these live streams every single weekday. So if you are new here, please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. We have a lot of news to discuss today. It's going to be an interesting one. Let's take a look at the price of Bitcoin here quickly. We have Bitcoin sat up 1% in the last 24 hours to 30,773, and we have Ethereum up to 1.6% within the last 24 hours to 1,885. So Ethereum has actually been outperforming Bitcoin in the last 24 hours. We will discuss that in today's stream. We'll be comparing the prices of both and we will analyze the chart of both as well. So make sure to stay tuned until the very end so you can hear what we've got to say on that. Before we continue with today's stream, let's check in with the chat. Hello, everybody in the chat this morning. Thank you very much for joining in as always. It seems that the connection issues with YouTube seem to be solved. Let me know if everything is running smoothly. Let me know if there are any problems today. It seems that we've got excellent connection again. Those issues that we've had earlier this week seem to have gone away. So thank God for that. Let's take a look at what's going on here. Let's take a look at the cryptocurrency news. We need to talk about the SEC and regulation right now. Let's get everything set up correctly. It's been a volatile week in cryptocurrency. It's been a pretty interesting one. We've seen the potential of Ftx relaunching. We've seen Qcoin require every user to KYC. What else have we seen this week? We've seen Coinbase reply to the SEC's complaints. We have seen all of the news today. In fact, let's not spoil what's going on in today's news. Let's get started and see what's happening here. Coinbase files response to the SEC's complaints. So we all know that earlier this month, it was in June, I believe, the SEC filed a lawsuit against both Binance and against Coinbase. Now, the underlying problem and the reason why the SEC have filed against these two companies is because of the understanding of whether cryptocurrencies are securities or are commodities. If an asset is a security, it's regulated by the SEC. If it's a commodity, it's regulated by the CFTC. Now, to determine whether an asset is a security or a commodity, we use the Howey test that was created in 1946. And to determine whether a cryptocurrency asset is a security or a commodity, the SEC like to continue to use that test. But the problem is, it's not always clear. And there has been conversation about these assets merging from one category to another. We have seen over time Ethereum be classed as a security and then after a while being classed as a commodity. So there's a big issue there with the clarity around determining which category these assets fall into. And because of that, we are seeing problems with the regulators trying to file lawsuits against companies who don't agree with the position that they've made. Now, we have some sort of bias involved in the categorization of these assets, and that's really a problem here. We all know that Gary Gensler, the chairman of the SEC, is trying to categorize many different cryptocurrencies as securities, and a lot of the cryptocurrency company projects are saying, look, we don't fit that category. So what we're fighting for in the cryptocurrency space is clarity around that regulation. We don't want to use the Howey test that was created in 1946, which is subject to some biases. We want some clear regulation, some new framework built for the digital asset space that allows us to clearly categorize these assets and continue to build forwards without having the regulators stepping involved and giving all of their opinions. And because we have that lack of clarity there, we have some sort of overlap in the industry between the SEC and the CFTC, because we don't have that clear divide in the assets. So that's a real problem that we're seeing there in the US. And because of that lack of clarity, Coinbase have had issues on which tokens they can offer to their users. Coinbase is being accused of offering unregistered securities and being an unregistered securities exchange. So that's what's happening here, but Coinbase is saying, look, none of these assets here we determined to be securities. So the SEC are saying Solana, Matic, and Cardano are securities. Coinbase is saying, but we've done these tests and we don't think it falls into that category. So with that bias involved, it's really hard to determine and categorize these assets. Now, The difference with Coinbase is that Coinbase has been crying out, and Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase, have been crying out for clarity on regulation in the cryptocurrency space for months and years. They've been saying the Howey test is not clear for digital assets. We need some new framework. And the SEC have been saying, no, we've done enough. You can use the Howey test from 1946. You'll get used to it. And Coinbase is saying, but it's just not clear. You're classifying an asset as a security, and we're classifying it as a commodity. If the framework was clear, we wouldn't be able to have those two arguments there. It would be a clear divide. So that's the issues that we're seeing here. Now, we all know that Coinbase has been a very long-standing cryptocurrency exchange. It did launch through an IPO onto the public traded markets around 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. And when that took place, the SEC have to do their due diligence on the company to ensure that they are allowed to launch an IPO. The SEC at that time said everything was fine. Now, at that time, Coinbase was saying then there's some problems with clarity around the classification of these assets. So Coinbase were crying out for some clarity. The SEC was saying no. So Coinbase made its own framework, and Coinbase made that framework and presented it to the SEC and said, look, this is how we're going to determine whether we can list assets on our exchange or not. We're going to determine for ourselves using this framework we have built whether an asset is a security or a commodity, and if it's a commodity, we're going to launch it. If we determine it's a security through this framework, then we will not. And they gave the SEC access to that framework prior to launching as a public company. So the SEC knew exactly how Coinbase were determining whether to launch assets or not, or to list assets or not on the platform at that time, and the SEC still said it was ready to go and ready to be a public company. So clearly, when they did their due diligence there, they didn't see too much of an issue with this. Now, all of a sudden, they found an issue with this. Now, Coinbase have said they've not changed how they determine whether they should list an asset or not, and we all know for sure the SEC have not changed the regulation over determining if these assets are securities or not. So what if nothing's changed? How can they just suddenly change their stance on this? And it's clear that even the SEC aren't understanding their own rules right now. So we can see here that the SEC have filed against Binance and Coinbase. They've listed multiple different cryptocurrency assets as securities through these filings, and these assets have unfortunately taken a massive hit because of that. But Coinbase have now replied to this filing 40 days before the deadline, saying that Solana, Matic, and Cardano are not investment contracts, so they are not within the SEC's authority. Let's take a look at what's going on here. Hennant said in the chat, SEC seems to be confused with whatever they are trying to do. It does see, they're just not staying consistent on what they have to say, and that's the problem here. And if they aren't understanding what's going on with their piece of framework, how are we supposed to? And that clarity is all the cryptocurrency industry is fighting for. We're not fighting against this regulation because we don't want it. We're fighting for clarity so we can work with it, so we can continue to grow the industry. Now, what's happening in the US right now is the US is going to end up falling behind on the cryptocurrency adoption massively compared to other regions because their regulation is so unclear and because they're just pushing cryptocurrency companies out of the region. Anyway, let's take a look at what's happening here. So Coinbase have responded to the filing against the company. We can see here that Coinbase began by refuting allegations that it facilitated securities trading. In the lawsuit, the SEC claimed that 12 tokens traded on the exchange are securities, and the exchange argued otherwise, saying those tokens are not investment contracts, referring to an arrangement where individuals invest in a common enterprise with the expectation of making a profit. Now, we've also seen that Coinbase say, look, we're not unlisting any of the tokens listed in this filing. We're going to continue to list them on our platform because we believe they are commodities, and they're standing by that. The only token that the Coinbase have taken off in the last couple of years is XRP, and that was because the SEC said that it was a security. Now that they're standing up for themselves through this lawsuit and saying, no, we're not doing this, we're not taking our tokens just because you've suddenly decided, I wonder if they are going to relist XRP. That would be a very interesting topic there. So I'm keeping my eyes on that. Let's see what's going on here as well, though. So the exchange also stressed how there have been multiple overlapping regulatory bodies and repeated attempts to understand and address the SEC's position on certain crypto offerings. So Coinbase CLO maintain the SEC's claims in the case go far beyond existing law, therefore pushing the motion for the case to be dismissed. So Coinbase is trying to get that SEC suit dismissed, something that we are all waiting to see. We are still all crying out for clarity on this space. Coinbase has said, until you give us that clarity, you can't just determine which assets you decide should be securities or not. We're going to continue to function as normal until you provide that clarity. We have also seen the SEC file against Binance. Now, the Binance lawsuit is a whole different ballgame. They have the same accusations as Coinbase in terms of offering unregistered securities and being an unregistered securities exchange. However, they have other arguments on top of the Binance one as well. So I imagine the Binance one is going to take even longer than this Coinbase lawsuit could take. And this, I don't think, is going to be over overnight. So we will keep a close eye on that and see how this plays out within the next couple of months. It will be very, very interesting. Before we continue with today's stream, though, please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button, comment down below, interact with the video as much as possible. YouTube is punishing us this week because we had some connection issues on Wednesday, so please try and help us with the algorithm as much as possible. We would greatly appreciate that. We are trying to get to 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and we need your help to do so, so please help as much as possible with that. Let's take a look at the next article here. So the Ethereum co-founder says Ethereum is not a security. So he said in a CNBC interview that Ethereum was not a security. He added that the CFTC had classified Ether as a commodity, and the recently released Hinman documents point to a similar conclusion by the SEC. So what's happening now is, although Ethereum hasn't really been caught up in what's happening in terms of regulation right now, it's really not been ruled out of the question. What's happened with Bitcoin is Bitcoin has been determined as a commodity, and it's really been positioned out of the firing line. It's pretty clear that the regulators aren't going to touch that and aren't going to bother that and try and get that involved in this issue between the classification of securities and commodities. But with Ethereum, it's a bit unclear. Now they haven't really put it in the firing line like Cardano, Matic and Solana. Like I've just said, it hasn't been listed as a security, but they've not outright said this is a commodity, this is not an issue. They've not put it in the same category as Bitcoin. It's somewhere in the middle there. So let's see what they've said here. Regulators have spoken. The SEC has spoken. Bill Hinman made a speech, I think, in mid-2018. It was disclosed that 18 of his colleagues worked on the speech with him. The SEC actually spoke. The CFTC has spoken very crisply a number of times that they consider Ether a commodity and not a security. It's really a foregone conclusion at this point. There may be a regulator or two in the US that can't bring himself to utter the fact that Ether is not a security, but I don't know why that's the case. So, however, whether ETH is deemed a security continues to haunt the crypto community and investors, primarily because the SEC chairman Gary Gensler has yet to declare the ETH as a commodity explicitly. So we have tried to force that out of him, but he's just not having it. He's not outright said that, and that's why it's falling in between those two categories. And we really want him to just say, look, ETH is a commodity and you can continue now. But as you can see within this article, something I've mentioned earlier today is the CFTC has spoken very crisply a number of times that they consider Ether a commodity. Now, the SEC haven't confirmed that. They haven't said yes it is. So that's where you can see the overlap of these two regulators. They can't even decide together before they publicly talk whether an asset is a security or a commodity. One of them is saying one thing and the other one is going, do you know what, I'm not too sure. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy how this can be happening and causing all of these issues for the cryptocurrency space. If the regulators aren't clear and can't decide on a decision based on the framework and have differing opinions based on the framework, it is clear that the framework is not clear. I mean, that's the most obvious thing you can see here. If the regulators can't agree on something, how are we meant to know what they want us to categorize these assets as? So very difficult situation going on in the US there. Let's see what else is going on in the cryptocurrency news. Let me have a sip of my coffee this morning. I've put far too much sugar in that coffee. It's absolutely horrible. Let's see what else is going on in the crypto news. We've got some more regulation here. in the UK. So the UK has passed a bill to recognise crypto and stablecoins as regulated financial activity. So the latest development comes as the EU takes significant strides in enacting clear regulation for the crypto asset sector. King Charles formally agreed to make the Financial Services and Markets Bill into Act of Parliament on Thursday, so that was the last step for this to be approved. So the Financial Services and Market Act 2023 allows UK regulators to oversee cryptocurrencies and stablecoins. So it means the government will implement its vision of growing the economy and creating an open, sustainable and tech-advanced financial services sector. So this bill is really trying to protect consumers of cryptocurrency and treating it like a financial asset. So the bill gives regulators like the FCA and the Prudential Regulation Authority more authority over the financial system, including crypto assets. They will be able to make changes and enforce rules to enhance the scrutiny and accountability of crypto firms, hence making crypto adoption safe in the country. UK banks may pose a problem. The latest development comes as the EU takes significant strides in enacting clear regulation for the crypto industry. And last month we did see, let's get to the point of this one, a unanimous vote following a green light from the European Parliament for that regulation in the EU. But the UK's plans of evolving into a global crypto hub might be stifled by banks as they are hesitant about servicing digital asset firms. Several major banks, including NatWest, Nationwide and HSBC, have restricted crypto-related transactions. So what's happened in the UK is in the UK, they said, I want to become a cryptocurrency hotspot. And cryptocurrency companies are operating in the region. They're tightening up regulation, but the banks do not want to work with these cryptocurrency companies. And we've seen many different banks, like mentioned in this article, place limits on how much people can interact with cryptocurrency companies. So you can only transfer a certain amount in and out of cryptocurrency companies per day or per month when you're banking with these major banks in the UK. So that's really stifling growth of cryptocurrency in the UK, I would say. And that's something contrasting to what's happening in Hong Kong. Now, I know I mentioned this a lot, but it's really interesting what's happening over there right now. So Hong Kong said, I want to become a cryptocurrency hotspot, and they've done everything in their power to do so. They've said, we're going to tighten regulation, but we're going to provide clarity around that, something the US is not doing. And the regulators are also pushing the banks to work with cryptocurrency companies. So that's a massive difference there and can really help push cryptocurrency adoption in the region. And something we need to see more of in the UK, but we will see if that comes about in the next couple of months. Let's check in back with the chat. Good morning, Robert. Thank you very much for tuning in once again. Let's see what else is going on about the next article here. Let's move on from regulation now. We talk about regulation here a lot on the channel. We need to move on from this and see what else is going on in the world of crypto. I've pressed the wrong app. I've got everything popping up on my screen right now. Let's check that everything's running smoothly. Let's go on to the next one here. So we are talking about FTX. SBF loses bid to dismiss criminal charges involving FTX collapse. So SBF efforts to exonerate himself from the criminal charges laid against him have hit rock bottom as a federal judge supports prosecutors. So after SBF, the founder of the bankrupt crypto derivatives exchange FTX, spent weeks attempting to dismiss the charges against him involving his leading role in causing FTX's downfall, the presiding judge rejected his bid. So in the US, the judge who handled the case sided with the prosecutors that claimed SBF was guilty of mishandling users' funds. So a failed attempt there from SBF to get out of all of these problems. Let's see what's happening with its extradition to the US. SBF has requested the dismissal of at least 10 charges filed against him, and SBF's lawyers claims that the charges were vague and non-specific, and that the government hastened to judgment with the indictments. Later that month, prosecutors discarded SBF's claim to exonerate himself from the charges as meritless. So that's what's going on there with SBF. We'll keep a close eye on that. Let's move on to the next one now. We've got a lot of cryptocurrency news to discuss today. Let's pull that up. So Qcoin users to undergo mandatory KYC procedures beginning 15th of July. Now, KYC and AML protocols are something that the regulators are trying to force cryptocurrency companies to do. And we are seeing many different cryptocurrency companies right now not wanting to be in the firing line of regulators. So choosing to push down on these rules before they really do get in the firing line. So we can see here that Qcoin has undergone mandatory KYC procedures beginning 15th of July. We did see Bybit do something similar on the 8th of May, and I expect to see a lot of other cryptocurrency companies to do something very similar too. Let's continue with the next article and see what else is going on here. So Preston Baden targets crypto traders in battle against unfair tax system. So Baden previously said crypto tax loopholes cost the government around $18 billion. He got a lot of backlash for that. He has also tried to plant a 30% tax on crypto mining in America. Obviously, a lot of people within the cryptocurrency space are disagreeing with this. They don't want that to be involved. We are trying to grow the cryptocurrency industry in the US. We have tight regulation. We are now seeing the potential of higher tax. I mean, they're just pushing the innovation out of the region and pushing it elsewhere. And I believe in the future they will be scrambling to catch up. Let's continue with this article and see what else is going on in today's cryptocurrency news. Please don't forget, if you haven't already, to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button, and see what else is going on in the world of crypto. If you are new here, please don't forget to tune in every single weekday. We do these live streams. We talk about what's going on in the markets. We take a look at the price of Bitcoin. We'll take a look at the price of Ethereum again too, and we'll compare both assets. We stay up to date with everything crypto. If you want to stay up to date with what's going on in crypto, you need to be following along on these live streams, because staying up to date with the latest cryptocurrency news is one of the most important things you can do to prepare yourself for the next bull market. Also, if you have not already, make sure to go to cryptosavingexpert.com, the one-stop shop for crypto. Press that big blue sign up button and get access to our news every single day. So let's see what's going on with this next article here. Binance banking partner in Europe, Paysafe, to withdraw support in September. Now, this is not the first time Binance have seen banking partners withdraw in the last couple of months, and I don't think it's going to be the last. We've seen problems in Australia. We've seen problems in the US. We are now seeing problems in Europe. So Binance hurdles in Europe amidst global regulatory scrutiny have gone a notch higher, with its banking partners Paysafe halting support for the crypto exchange in September. Now, what we've seen in the US is banks decided they didn't want to work with Binance US following the scrutiny from the US regulators. And with that, we saw massive fluctuations and discrepancies in the price of Binance US compared to its competitors in the region. And if we continue to see issues in Europe, we could be in for seeing something similar, where they have to remove the fee on an off-ramp from the exchange, and even maybe pause spot pairs with the euro. So let's keep a close eye on that. This is obviously only one of their banking partners, but if we see some sort of domino effects, then we could expect something similar in the US as well. So let's definitely keep a close eye on that. Let's take a look at the next one here and see what else is going on here. We have Germany denies crypto giant Binance a custody license. So obviously in hand with this scrutiny going on with Binance right now, Germany denies the license there, and we are probably going to see a lot more fear being spread across the world around Binance following this regulatory scrutiny in the US. Let's see what else is going on here. Jerome says, I wish all cryptos were on DEXs. It's annoying that some aren't. Which cryptos are you talking about there? Because the majority of them will be. Melania Trump launches multiple NFT collections to celebrate the 4th of July. Part of the NFT sales proceeds will be dedicated to charitable causes in the foster care community. So we are seeing NFT collections to celebrate the 4th of July there. If you are interested in that, I'll put the link in today's stream, but let's continue with the next article here and see what else is going on in the world of crypto. We have Tron-based assets replace Bitcoin as preferred means of terrorist financing, according to a TRM report. So terrorist groups preferred using Tron-based assets over Bitcoin to finance their activities. However, fiat remains the dominant facilitator of illicit transactions globally. And that is the main point I would like to point out here. People look at cryptocurrency, people look at Bitcoin, and they like to point the finger and say, you are the reason we have all of these illicit transactions. But this is just not the case. If we look at the percentage Here, the majority of cryptocurrency transactions are people trying to take advantage of this new technology. It's not just used for illicit transactions. Maybe it was in its early days. There are a couple of people in crypto that got involved early and then realized the potential and changed what they were really in crypto for, I have to say. But right now, you can read through this article and see for yourself. The majority is through fiat transactions there. So let's put the link to that in today's live chat as well. Let's continue with today's news and see what else is going on here. We have one last article here today. If you have not read this article, it's actually really, it's a really good article here. I had a read through it before we launched on the site. So how to mine Bitcoin for less than £100. So one of the guys at Crypto Saving Expert actually purchased a Blockstream Jade hardware wallet and managed to mine Bitcoin for less than £75. So that's around what, 100 US dollars. Let's see what the results have been here. I mean, I don't want to give it away too much, but this is a small computer. There's a little picture in here. It's this small device here, and you can actually start mining Bitcoin on that device. Now, the probability of you mining Bitcoin is pretty low, and mining a block is pretty low. The probabilities are all within this article, but what we like to call this is, let's get to the point of there's all the transaction details there. You get 80,000 chances per second to mine a Bitcoin, and this is called lottery mining. So although the chances of you actually mining a Bitcoin on one of these devices is pretty low, there is still a probability there, and we have seen people using devices like this actually achieve the ability to mine a block on the blockchain and earning that 6.25 Bitcoin. We did see a couple of years ago, maybe 1 year ago, there was an article in the news because somebody had started mining and the next day managed to mine a full block, and they were using something that really didn't provide much hash power. And then the next day, there was something really similar. Hennett says, I read that yesterday and it was informative. It's a very good article, actually. Even if you're not interested in investing in the device, it's a really interesting article to see what's actually going on here. And also, if you are interested in the device to get involved in lottery mining, it actually also is a hardware wallet, so you get to store your cryptocurrency there as well. So there are some other benefits to that device, and you're not just throwing $100 down the drain if you're not successful in that mining block. But let's continue with today's news. Let's move on to some Bitcoin analysis here and see what's going on. We are finished with today's cryptocurrency news, so if you have enjoyed that segment of today's video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell notification button, and make sure to tune in here every single weekday. We do these live streams every single weekday at 11 a.m. DST time. We're trying to grow the channel as much as possible, and we need your help to do so. Let's take a look at the price of Bitcoin here and see what is going on. Rena said, for the article, I used to mine Doge on an old laptop. A lot of people used to mine Doge back in the day, and it seems to be that a lot of people have got a lot of Doge sitting on old computers somewhere. I'm taking a look. Actually, I'm not going to say that. I was going to say something, but it's a sneak peek into what's coming to Crypto Saving Expert. You'll have to stay tuned to see what I was about to say then. Good job I didn't say that. I don't think the team would be too happy if I leaked all of the secrets here. Let's take a look at what's going on here. So on the Bitcoin daily chart, we have Bitcoin sat at $30,813. If we zoom in here, you can see we are testing that level of resistance here at $30,500 to $31,000. We have not yet managed to break through this and close some big candles above it. If we take a look at the 4-hour chart, we wicked it again overnight, but we really didn't see too much movement there. So waiting to see if we can see some volatility there and see some nice big 4-hour candles and daily candles closing above that level of resistance. If we do, I'm feeling very positive. I've zoomed out to the bigger time frames. You can see we have this level of resistance from back in June last year at 32,500. We have a level of support down at 28,500. But right now, Bitcoin looks like it's on the attack to the upside. It's really, really trying to break through that level of resistance. And I know a lot of us have very bullish price targets for the next couple of weeks, so if it continues to break up to the upside, it would be very nice to see. The other thing with this as well is we have the Bitcoin CME Gap opening. Let's finish with this chart first. So we also have this level of support here, which acted in January, March, and June this year. And I'm expecting this to continue to hold here. And it's got a nice bullish trajectory there. Let's take a look at the Bitcoin CME gaps here. So the CME Gap chart will create a gap tonight. We have a gap in the markets from the $20,000 level, from the $35,300 level, both acting like magnets for the Bitcoin price. I think at some point we're going to have to forget about this $20,000 level. I'm feeling super bullish, and with all the problems that occurred with the SEC and Coinbase and Binance at this point of time, if anything was going to drag down the markets to $20,000, I personally believe it was going to be that. But since we did not see us drop below that $24,800 level, I'm feeling pretty positive that everybody that is holding now seems to be pretty long-term holders here. So if we take a look here, though, we do have that magnet up at $35,200. We do have that CME Gap opening tonight. So let's keep a close eye on that. We will be talking about that on Monday's live stream in the morning at 11 a.m. BST time. So make sure to stay tuned for that. Let's take a look at the Ethereum chart here and see what is going on. So we have bounced that level of support that we drew just a couple of weeks ago here on the chart. So this is between the $1,823 level and the $1,837 level. Do have to say so, my analysis has been pretty good here on these streams. So if you've not been keeping notes, you should have been. Let's take a look at this here. So we also have this level of resistance that was sloping down, and we've not yet retested it, but we've come pretty close. So hopefully if we do have to come down a little bit further, that will act as a level of support for us there. Let's take a look at what's going on here. And it says, I personally need a little bit of a pullback, Jess. I predicted a pullback to 29.6k, and if that happens, I'm going to win a giveaway from someone. We are waiting to see what's happening here. I'm hearing an awful lot of people say, I want the markets to stay down a little bit longer so I can accumulate a little bit more. But the markets waits for no one. We'll have to see how this plays out. Let's take a look at the Ethereum BTC chart and see what else is going on here. So comparing the price of Bitcoin to Ethereum, if this chart moves to the downside, Bitcoin is outperforming Ethereum, and if it moves to the upside, Ethereum is outperforming Bitcoin. If we take a look at this chart here, and we see what's happening here as well, you can see that it started to see a little bit of a bounce here. Now, I've been saying I'm keeping a close eye on this chart because I want to start transferring some of my Bitcoin into Ethereum, but I'm really waiting for the correct moment now. If Bitcoin starts to break through that level of resistance, I may hold off for a little bit longer, but I think it is time to start slowly, gradually putting some of my Bitcoin into Ethereum, ready for a reversal on this chart, so that when I convert my Ethereum back into Bitcoin, I can see some nice gains in terms of Bitcoin value. Well, that's my plan anyway, so I'll keep you up to date with how that goes for my personal portfolio. Obviously, nothing is financial advice. Don't copy anything I'm doing. That's just what I'm trying to do with my money at the moment. Let's see what's going on here. Animator82 said, thoughts on the recent large green candle and wicks upwards on Bitcoin being a situation where shorts are building their position and gearing up for a push back down to $30,000 to $29,000. So if we take a look at, let's save that chart there because I keep losing it. Let's go there, save. Let's go back to BTC USDT. So this is where our lines are on the chart there. Gearing up for a push back down to $30,000 to $29,000. I mean, potentially, $29,000 isn't too far away. We've got a level of previous resistance there at 29.5 that could act as a level of support. We have used it as a support there, but I really can see us really attacking this level of resistance. And if we manage to get through that, I imagine we're going to see a pretty quick move. Anybody that's shorting Bitcoin right now, we are not friends. I'm looking at this and I'm saying, I can see so many bears in the market, and I understand that if you take a look at the market cycles, we do have some movement left to go. If we go to the Bitcoin USD chart, this is something that I'm looking at right now. So if we go to the weekly chart here, bears in the markets, let's go to Bitcoin events here. Bitcoin halving events. Now I need to type out Bitcoin Halving events. There we go. So these are the Bitcoin halvings. You can see we all already know that the next Bitcoin halving is expected to be in April 2024, so April next year. And you can see here after every previous Bitcoin halving, we have seen a new all-time high pretty soon after that. Well, that's not the new all-time high. What we're looking at is if we go from the previous all-time high to the new all-time high, we see that we surpass that pretty soon following the Bitcoin halving. So here we had a Bitcoin halving in July 2016 and we surpassed that level in March 2017. If we take a look at this, we have a Bitcoin halving in May 2020 and we surpassed that level in December 2020. So that's typical to see in the history of Bitcoin. We have this Bitcoin halving in April 2024. So I'm expecting us to surpass that previous all-time high, which is up here, following that Bitcoin halving, because as I always say, the trend is your friend until the end. I don't like to try and trade against the trend until it breaks. So I'm looking at this and I do see that we have some sort of cap on the movement for Bitcoin right now. I'm expecting, because of this trend and these cycles, that we will not yet break that $70,000 level until we pass April next year. So that kind of puts a lid on where we can really move in the next 6 months. And I am expecting some more sideways action along the way. We do have some extra factors, including BlackRock's ETF, Fidelity's ETF, and the 3 other spot Bitcoin ETF filings that have occurred, which could drive adoption and could create a huge amount of demand for the industry. But I'm trying to not trade against the trend, because that is the strategy that always seems to win for me. So I'm looking at this and I'm saying, I don't think we're going to surpass this level anytime soon, that $70,000 level for the next 6 months. I think that's a cap for us. In the same token though, if we go to the Bitcoin USDT chart here and we take a look at what's going on the monthly chart, so let me pull this up down here, and let's make that automatic, and we go to the MACD, you can see here that in history, when the MACD has ticked green, it's been an indicator. Let me spread this out so you can see this a little bit more. So the MACD ticked green here, and that at that point in time, the bottom was in for the bear market and the bull market had begun. It's also ticked green here, the bottom was in for the bear market and the bull market had begun. Obviously, we had that blip with COVID, but what you can see what is happening now is we are incredibly close to beginning a green candle. Now, how many days are in June? January, February, March, April, May, June. So today is the last day of June. So tomorrow we could start building a green candle here on the MACD, and if not in July, maybe August. And what we see there, if we see a green candle close in July, I'm going to be very, very bullish there, because that signals to me in history, when that has happened, the bottom is in and the bull market has begun, and that's a massive indicator there. The bigger the time frame, the more reliable the indications become. So when we see something like that, I do feel really, really bullish. And what we can see here is we do have a big time frame prior to that Bitcoin halving. I mean, if we take a look at this cycle down here, you can see we had the bottom down here, and then we had a nice rally to the upside all the way up to the Bitcoin halving, and then we surpassed it 4 months later. So what we can see here is we could still see a nice uptrend to the upside. We don't need to surpass that all-time high anytime soon. We can just continue to see a nice steady uptrend, and then when we've surpassed that halving, that's when I'll start getting bullish and start calling for all-time highs. So right now I do think we have some sort of lid on the upwards potential, but I also think, personally, my own opinion is that the bottom is already in. I don't think we've got any reason to surpass this bottom and go even lower. That might be completely wrong. I have been wrong in the past, but I'm just saying right now, if I'm looking at this chart, that's what I'm seeing. All the indicators to me are looking like the bottom is in. I am slightly wary based on that cap that we have on the price of Bitcoin. Some people are having crazy Bitcoin price predictions right now, which is super high, which would be absolutely amazing. But I'm just looking at this and thinking we could see some more sideways action to come. We also have that Bitcoin halving in April, and typically for the year prior to the Bitcoin halving, it is net bullish. So I'm expecting to see a nice rest of the year. year, a nice 6 months to come, but I am expecting it to be pretty steady there. I mean, I don't mean steady as in lack of volatility. I mean overall, when we zoom out, we won't have seen massive gains or massive losses, but there will be lots of volatility along the way, because that's what Bitcoin likes to do. It likes to liquidate as many leverage traders as possible. But that is all we really have for today's stream. Sorry for that ramble. I hope you all have enjoyed. So thank you very much for tuning in. As always, please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell notification button, and I will be back here on Monday with another cryptocurrency news show. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you